Hi everyone, my name is Cassandra Chen, and today I'm talking to Hillary Carter. Can you please introduce yourself?
I sure can. Thanks, Cassandra. My name is Hillary Carter. I am the SVP of Research at the Linux Foundation, and I've been working at the Linux Foundation for 4 years. And prior to that, I ran a research institute that was singularly focused on blockchain technology. And it's great to be here.
I wanted to talk to you because I think your role is really important. You don't actually know programming, but you're around geeky people all day and you know how to talk to them. And you have a certain set of knowledge, which I think in this world with technology, we'll just find ourselves interacting with technical people.
Yeah, thank you. You're absolutely right. I'm not a coder. In fact, I have never in my whole life written a line of code ever. I feel that that's a gap that I would like to close one day, but it's not my core skill set. And what I do love is that this community, the open source community, is a community that allows people with different skill sets to contribute their strengths and to elevate the work of coders because it's so important. And that there's an expression that it takes a village to raise a child. And it also takes a village to scale an open source project in a community. It takes all kinds of people with different skills working together and contributing in different ways. Sometimes it's code and sometimes it's non-code contributions. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's a little bit of time and advocacy, or in the field that I'm working in, research, it's taking 10 or 15 minutes to complete a survey. That's a very important non-code contribution, but the output of that effort that our community shares is really
When you say
important.
complete a survey, you're not the one taking the survey.
No, I don't take the survey, but what our group does is we create the survey instruments. We design the survey, we choose the appropriate questions, and we decide what the different response options need to be to those questions. And we try to be as collectively exhaustive. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the expressions, probably because I'm jet lagged. I'll come back to it, but we tried to be as thorough as possible in designing a survey instrument so that it mutually exclusive as well as collectively exhaustive in how we design a survey instrument, and making sure that we have a qualified respondent taking the survey so that we get the right kind of
You
insights.
create a survey where someone who knows coding and someone who doesn't know coding, and just literally everyone can take.
That's a great question. So if it were up to me to design the survey, LF Research would have shut down within a matter of weeks. We rely very heavily on the intelligence and the insights and the knowledge of subject matter experts across the open source community. So we will always ask for peer reviews and input. And generally, a research project has numerous stakeholders, not unlike an open source project has multiple parties contributing, different organizations contributing. Same thing with the design of a research study. A survey instrument or even an interview guide is vetted by multiple people in the same way that code is vetted and checked for errors and
Do you
omissions,
have an
things like that.
example of a research study?
I do. Well, we have produced 76 of them, I think maybe 77 on Tuesday. So here's the exciting thing. We co-create these 76 plus research reports with the community, and then all of the data that we generate is available to everyone for free. And anybody can access our reports and use them.
Do you have an example of one study in particular?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you about one of the first studies that I engaged in. And because this is often a conversation, I know you talk a lot about how to encourage young people to get involved in coding and open source. There's a research study that I cite, which I use to explain open source to my children who are also not really technical. But it's this particular research project was about industry level collaboration in open source. And the industry in question is the motion pictures industry, so the film and entertainment industry. And I chose that industry to try to explain what I do to my kids because they understand film and they understand movies and they understand digital animation. They grew up watching Finding Nemo and Toy Story and the Harry Potter films, and they really do love their digital animation. And I said, okay, you know how movie making has digitally transitioned over the past 100 years from paper to film and now to computer generated filmmaking. It's a highly software defined industry. I said, it's more effective for all of the movie studios to come together and collaborate on an open source project than it is for them to develop these technologies in their own organizations. And so all of the stuff that goes into making Dune and Harry Potter and all these huge blockbuster movies, Moana, Star Wars, you name it. I can say if you need to render an explosion or if you need to sequence film or if you need to, you need a beach scene, Disney has contributed the Moana beach scene. So I said to my kids, if you want to learn how to make a movie, you can take the Moana beach scene and start coding up all around it. And they all share these technologies. So I've found that this particular research study about the formation of a project community, not unlike CNCF, it's called the Academy Software Foundation. And it's something that they can relate to as non-technologists. They're like, okay, I get it. And it's not just my kids that I tell that story to, and I use the research as evidence of the formation of this kind of industry collaboration. I share that story with non-technologists as well, decision makers in banking.
Like some movie assets are open source now.
They sure are. Lots of them. Lots and lots of them. So the major motion picture studios, Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks, and Warner Brothers, and Lucasfilm that makes the Star Wars series, Netflix, DreamWorks or Sony ImageWorks, they have contributed numerous assets, visual assets that are now pre-competitive and allow. So I think the point of that story is that within every industry, not just motion pictures, there's a level of the software stack that is pre-competitive. It's like the plumbing. It's like the electrical wires, the plumbing, and the concrete that's used to build the roads, the main kind of base layer infrastructure. And then the studios go and compete higher up the stack. Tell a better story with those technologies. Make a better movie with those technologies. And then everybody goes, I get it. I understand. It was really funny though when I first started Linux Foundation and my kids were like, Mommy, what do you do? And I said, well, so I worked for this organization and I started with Tux, the penguin mascot at the LF. And as soon as I showed them Tux, they're like, oh, Mommy, we know Tux because we use Tux Paint in our schools. And I'm like, excellent. And I realized how pervasive open source software is in the school system. I'm from Canada. My kids are growing up in Canada, and how common it is to see open source software in schools in Europe and in the rest of the world. So I was amazed and delighted that they were more familiar with the brand of open source projects.
I find it difficult to explain what the CNCF is to a lot of my friends.
I bet you do. I do sometimes too. But I think there needs to be interest from the listener as well. If they're not genuinely interested, it's just going to blow right over their heads. I've tried many times, and you kind of get the nod. Okay, yeah, whatever.
But I think doing Tux the Penguin is a good one.
Yeah, trying to find things that people can relate to, tools that people use every day. I happen to use a Samsung mobile phone, and it's a great teaching tool when I'm trying to explain the work that I do, because the Android operating system, if I go into my phone settings and I go to About Phone and I look at the legal information in my phone, if you click on legal information, you get to open source licenses, and you can scroll and scroll and scroll on that Samsung phone. I said, see, all this stuff, that's what goes into this product. And my phone could not be built without open source technologies. Think of all the different elements that go into a phone, your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your touchscreen, your operating system, applications. All of that stuff requires the foundational building blocks. And so providing tangible examples that people can relate to, it's a lot easier to explain this to Samsung users than it is to iPhone users. I've tried to navigate to the same area within an iPhone. It's really tough.
Yeah, I happen to also have a Samsung phone, so I think I might take you up on that and just go to the open source project,
Yeah.
which are part of it, and show people.
Yeah, please do. It's really, really worked for me. It helps people understand that the world's digital economy is built on this stuff. And I have an example right here in my pocket that I can show you that this product on the market it has been enhanced and created using open source software and the communities who sustain it. And it's very helpful. It's a helpful teaching tool.
I was thinking that, like, I mean, as a college student in computer science, like, they don't really teach you about open source in school.
I believe that. So one of our other research studies that we conducted identified gaps in education in terms of making software more secure. At what point in the computer scientist learning journey are security concepts introduced? And unfortunately, they're not introduced soon enough. So that's a structural concern that needs to be addressed. And we have to find better ways, not just to teach open source, but to teach software security right out of the gates so that the next generation of developers can build software that's secure by design and by default and not have to secure what they've built after the fact.
Actually, interesting enough, I did have some classes which covered security, but open source was non-existent.
That's too bad. Well, we all have work to do.
Yeah, we do. And I've actually got around to some of the booths at KubeCon. And, like, if you just ask anyone for advice on, like, applying for jobs and, like, what's next after college, like, they say they don't just look at your resume, but they look at your GitHub profile. And that's all your open source contributions.
Absolutely. It's a great, it's a resume of a different kind. And it's a terrific track record of the kind of code that you're writing. It's another example that I use for organizations who are not yet certain about the value proposition around open source, is the ability to attract talented people to their organization, because open source repos are a great way to explore who's writing good code. That's the developer that I want to work with. I want that person on my team. And so to contribute is to really help build your own kind of portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from talking to you today.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you.
From you, Cassandra. Thank you. I think you're doing amazing work, and I'm so excited that you're hosting this podcast. And I just want to congratulate you for your amazing initiative as an author and a podcaster and everything that you do. It's so inspiring.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.